Hello.
Hello.
So I am here with the lovely Erica Mackenzie. Thank you so much for joining us, Erica. And we met this May at the Integral Europe Conference in Hungary, where you were telling your amazing story of your near-death experience, which you have written your book about, Dying to Fit In. Do you have it there? Thank you so much for joining us. I know that kind of from our meeting and how we connected, how passionate you are about this shift and how much work you're doing towards the change too. So I'd love to give you the chance to talk about your experience and your own passion. So thank you so much for joining us.
Katie, it is such a pleasure and an honor to have this opportunity to share with you today on a topic, as you know, not only am I completely passionate about, but it is truly my mission to, collaborate with others and increase the knowledge and needed awareness. So thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. Would you mind just telling people a bit about your history, your story, and kind of what brought you into this line of work? I know you're a nurse by profession, but kind of weren't aware of this type of work, presumably when you're working in the field. So I think we've connected on that level as well. And then because of your experience, kind of woke up to a whole new kind of way of understanding the world. Is that right?
Right. Absolutely. That's true. It has been, 23 years ago, if you can believe that, going to medical school and becoming a nurse. I will never forget my senior year rotation of nursing school in the 4-year program for the psychiatric ward. And, going to class every day, the instructor at the time told the students, you'll have your patients, you will observe, you'll be quiet and listen. And then we're going to reconvene at the end of class, have the roundtable discussion, and contribute on what we observed for the day. But remember, she said, when you listen, you still need to understand that they have a mental illness, period. And, being at that young age, I didn't have the experiences that I've now, come full circle to have. But at the same time, I knew when she said that they all had a mental illness. I didn't resonate with me. I felt sick, to be honest, because I didn't feel in my heart, Katie, that could be the right answer. And so as we started, our rotation for that year, every time I would go in with that same sick feeling that listen to the patients, but not really, because they do have a mental illness. And it just didn't resonate. I knew it was wrong. And I got reprimanded when I would try to bring up my feelings about, I don't know if I feel like that's true. What I'm observing, that's not what I'm getting. A lot of these people, they're lost. Yes, they're in some sort of crisis. But I felt like that crisis was just an acute phase in their life. It wasn't defining them. And they certainly weren't, whatever this, mentally ill meant, I didn't see it. And that was just my experience, just coming from my end. And I never let go of that feeling. And it really, really weighed on me heavily. Fast forward to the day that I died, which is now 15 years ago, when I was 31 years old. As you know, I had been taking a combination of diet pills that were class 4 narcotics at the time, fen-phen. And so the phentermine part became a habit that I'm not proud of, but it was more of a coping mechanism, if you will. My way of dealing with society and in general, people not embracing each other and really listening and empowering each other, but really tearing each other down. That habit, if you will, ended up causing all of the physiologic problems that I had with my heart and my lungs, because it's designed to take for 3 months under doctor supervision. And I took it for almost 9 years.
Gosh, wow.
So it was my dirty little secret, one that would eventually kill me. And that's exactly what happened 15 years ago.
Oof, I just got shivers.
I'm not proud of it, but I also know, coming full circle, now having the wisdom and the knowledge of everything that I've been through and the experiences, it's important to talk about these things
Mm.
and in hopes to help others. And I feel like in some way, maybe if I talk about my experiences, you talk about your experiences, for example, then it'll bring others hope that they can also talk about it, have the confidence.
Emerge proud, Erica. You're emerging proud. And I'm so grateful. I'm so. I mean, this is why it's such an amazing thing to be with you today and to know what you're doing, because you died.
And talk about full circle, coming full circle. So having that experience as a young nurse at the time and being told one thing about the mental health care system and how it worked. And then fast forward to being on the other side of the table, being the patient.
Mm-hmm.
And what happened was for me, Katie, is I had this near-death experience being on those diet pills. It did kill me. And I had a near-death experience, which I talk about in Dying to Fit In, and understanding that I wasn't going to get to stay in heaven. I would have to come back on earth was going to be my new mission there. And, there's just no arguing with God is all I'm going to tell you. So I was sent back, and I remember my first memories. I was still unconscious, laying in the emergency room on a gurney. My husband was crying over my body, but I'm looking at myself. I'm on the ceiling, and I'm looking down and thinking, okay, there's no way I'm going to be able to go back into that body. No way. Because I had this incredible understanding and peace that me being out of that shell, my physical body, that was really me. And I had access to so much knowledge and information beyond the 5 human senses that we use.
Yeah.
And I couldn't fathom how it would even be possible after having that experience and living like that and being awake like that fully to be able to go back in. But needless to say, I didn't have a choice. So I was put back into my body, and I woke up. At the time when I woke up, I didn't.
You woke up in so many ways. Yeah, you woke up.
I woke
up
up.
Another level of consciousness.
I'll tell you, I'm going to be really honest. I was pissed. Okay.
Sure. I totally understand that when you've been part of universal consciousness and this love, and then it's like, oh my gosh, do I really need to come back to this world?
Yeah, it's so true. What you hear of other people's experiences, which I'm so grateful that people are sharing and talking about these non-ordinary experiences they've had on the other side. And I woke up. I'm in the emergency room. I'm laying on the bed, the gurney, and my husband had been crying over my body. He's happy that I wake up. I'm pissed because I don't want to be here. I just have been to this most incredible place and learned all of these lessons, and the knowledge that I brought back was so extensive that I knew I needed to remember it. I knew it was important, not for me only, but for all of us. It was going to be able to help. I was very concerned about telling someone so that someone else knew, so that if I could remember everything. I went to talk to my husband. I'm trying to talk, and I don't have a voice. And I just thought, you got to be kidding me. You have to be kidding me. The most important thing I've ever gone through, and now I don't have a voice. I can't tell anybody. So it was incredibly frustrating. Wow. And not only that, it was the frustration of I had physiologic symptoms that I was dealing with this physical body. Coming back on top of it, my lungs, it was very hard to breathe. I was having trouble normalizing my heart rate. I was in and out of consciousness. And being in this kind of state mentally, but also physically, and having to address all of this at once, it was surreal. It was overwhelming. I was in and out of consciousness, and my next memory is waking up in the hospital room. I didn't have a roommate. They had sent my husband home to get some rest. A very pleasant voice that came into the room and said, "Good morning, Mrs. McKenzie. How are you doing this morning? It's so good to see you conscious again." And that was my attending physician at the time. When he said that, there was something in me. It just clicked. It was like a switch. And I thought, oh my gosh, it feels like I'm going to throw up. And all I could think was, where's that little pan? It was like a little pink bedpan. And I'm looking for it, and I go to grab it. And I'm thinking, okay, I'm going to throw up in this pan. It wasn't throw up. It was my voice. And I couldn't even control it. It just came right up out of me. And I said, doctor, oh my gosh, I've just been to heaven. I have to tell you, we don't have time for this health assessment. I need to tell you where I've been and all these lessons. And I knew how important it was. But at the same time, it was surreal, Katie, because I'm looking at him and watching the color. It just leaves from his face as I'm saying.
Yeah.
And as it leaves from his face, he doesn't do the health assessment. As a matter of fact, he doesn't even acknowledge anything. He doesn't speak. He leaves right in the middle of me trying to explain to him what just happened to me. That feeling of abandonment was so, I didn't know how to handle it. Mm-hmm. Because here I am thinking, my training as a medical professional, I was trained to help patients. But then I remembered in that moment again, what I was taught my senior year in that psych rotation. Listen to the patients, but not really have a mental illness. The nurse came in, she'd been charting on me in the hall, and she came over to me and she said, shh, be quiet and listen. Child, I heard everything you just tried to tell that doctor, and I believe you, and I know that you're going to help so many people, but right now, I could lose my job for telling you this, but I've worked for that doctor for 7 years. And I'm so sorry that the first person that you tried to share this important experience with is an atheist. One that I've seen let it dictate his plan of care for his patients. So right now, you have to be quiet. And she knew what was going to happen next. And sure enough, she was right. About roughly 2 hours later, the doctor had returned, and this time with my husband. And he had, in the meantime, obviously had a private conversation with him and my family that, you know what? Even though technically Erica has no family history of mental illness, statistically, 31 years old is too late to get a new onset of anything like bipolar disorder or schizophrenia. However, there is a very rare number of people that do get this, and Derek, your wife is one of them. Because of those few sentences that I said in that moment to that healthcare professional, it determined and dictated my whole plan of care. Wow. Not only that, looking back, I tried to then advocate for myself and have a voice with the doctor and my husband in the room, and it was falling on deaf ears. The healthcare professional who is supposed to be advocating for their patient wouldn't listen to the fact that what I tried to tell them desperately, you see, Katie, I don't recommend this for anyone by any means, but this is a big lesson. I hid that habit of taking those diet pills for 9 years. I hid it from everyone, including my husband. I'm not proud of it, but the problem is I needed to be able to tell them, I had been taking these diet pills. This is why these physiologic symptoms were happening to my body. This is why I ended up dying, the damage. Please look into these diet pills. Call this doctor that had been prescribing it. She'll advocate for me and tell me, yes, this is why. Because I had never told anyone, and I'm waiting in this moment, and the doctor assessed my behavior and what I had said wasn't logical, there was no way. It was indifferent. They didn't want to hear anything. It fell on deaf ears. They wouldn't call that doctor that was prescribing the diet pills. And instead, he had already come up with a plan of care. And the plan of care, the treatment for me, was going to be inpatient, which means non-voluntary in my case, commitment to the psychiatric facility. Now, I lived in a state that was maybe not as advanced at this time in the protocol for helping people with psychiatric problems. They shipped me off. They had a bed available several states away from my kids and my family to one of the best at the time psychiatric inpatient hospitals in the country. I proceeded to stay there for almost just under a month against my will because of what I had said and tried to share my near-death experience in hopes to get help that I needed. Talk about good not.
Such a powerful experience, Erica, and it's so I mean, obviously your experience is very unique, but it's so common with what people say. You know, they try and talk about their experiences and their perception of what's happening to them, and the fear of the clinicians is the thing that kind of then disempowers them. So I mean, obviously this is about trying to change that public perception and to get these type of experiences accepted and normalized, and to give people a voice, you know, to help people feel empowered in speaking their truth, because you are speaking your truth.
I think that is such a valuable point that you made. Once I was in that facility and in that setting, the understanding of how imperative it was, the lack of education, and how there was no protocol for the spiritual component, if you will, of crisis, of having a spiritual experience, not a crisis of a mental breakdown, and knowing there was really, it wasn't blaming the healthcare professionals. They didn't have anything to lean on. There was no spiritual component model for them to pull out and say, let's ask for these questions so that then we do this instead of, medicating. And so what happened to me was, when I would be assessed, which was continuously, good morning, Mrs. McKenzie, for example, how are you feeling today? I was raised to tell the truth. So when I told the truth, I don't feel good. I'm drooling. My vision is blurry from these medicines you're giving me. Erica, did you really go to heaven? Were you really with God? And of course I would say, yes, I was. And this is what happened to me. And I start telling the story, and they would act like they were listening. But I finally understood and had an appreciation for what my teacher had taught me in medical school years ago. And that was, be quiet and listen, but not really. And it did fall on deaf ears, because what would happen is I would get either another medication added to the already big list of medications, of the antipsychotics, antidepressants, everything else, or the current medication I was on would be increased. And so I would have even more side effects and problems. And I'm going to pause really quick, because my Burmese mountain dog, if I don't let him in, he's going to start barking. I can edit it. I'll edit it out. You'll be
Show us your dog.
Oh no, he's walking away. I can't I don't have the wireless, or if he comes back over here, it's a little too hot for him. He's got all that fur, that he's the Burmese mountain dog. So, but yeah. And so, I understand now. I have the wisdom after going through that near-death experience, looking back on it, why this happened to me. And you said it. It's a very powerful, unique experience, but at the same time, Katie, this is happening on such an epidemic global level to so many people.
As we know.
Right. And so I know that if I wouldn't have had this experience as the patient, I don't know if I ever would have had the appreciation and the courage to come forward to try to help correct something that I knew was wrong so many years ago.
And you've been doing this, Erica, for
October, the month right now, it's 15 years, which is surreal for me. But, and so I look back now, and my hope is all of us working together to help bring this needed spiritual component to healing protocol into the medical health care system, especially the mental health is where we need to start, as you know, is I don't want anyone else to have to go through the way that I got out was I had to learn to deny my experience to the healthcare professionals, deny something that honestly you and I both know, really, if we're allowed to embrace those experiences, embrace that near-death experience or that non-ordinary experience that someone else has and talk about it, that is the most incredible tool of healing.
Yes, and that is so vital what you just said, Erica, because that's the transformation potential, isn't it? And when you have to deny your experiences, you separate from your true authentic self, and it's so damaging, and that's what causes psychological problems.
Exactly.
So what the mental health system perpetuates is an ongoing psychological crisis, because someone has to deny their own authentic experience. And so what you're doing is phenomenal in kind of raising awareness about this, and I'm so grateful to you for I know you're launching a project of your own very soon, and I'm so pleased that we've connected, because I think, like you say, it's all about collaboration. None of us can do this alone. It's about giving everyone a voice.
Katie, again, you are absolutely correct. It is really about helping to hold a space so that everyone can have a voice, not just some of us, because I learned so many things during my near-death experience. One of the most important things that stays with me, it was really important, obviously my book Dying to Fit In will tell you, I was trying so hard to fit into this mold in society, what was acceptable to mankind's standards, I really lost my way. I didn't even know who I was by the time that I died. And because I had denied myself my feelings or knowing something was right. And I just kept going along with what everybody was saying is normal, whatever that means. But what I've learned is we, having these experiences, can definitely educate others and help bring this beautiful component to spiritual healing of these experiences into the healthcare system. However, we also need to make sure that we're mindful of, we have to help the layperson, the people that aren't educated in the healthcare system, at the same time, holding the space for them to be able to talk about these things, to feel safe. And how do we do that? One thing that's really important is teaching people how to become self-advocates. What I've seen in my research in the 15 years, first having to go through it for myself, learning that part of this, the work, we each have work that we have to do. We each have our own blueprint though. So it's important to allow ourselves permission to love ourselves. We have to start with loving ourselves first.
Yeah.
If you don't do that, and how can you do that anyway, Katie, if you don't even know who you are, what you need? If we're always walking around, almost zombie-like, if you will, oh, take this, okay, oh, do that, and never questioning anything, and it requires us to really connect with ourselves. You get to know who we are, have patience with ourselves, you know? And so it was a huge lesson, hands-on, that I had to learn for myself, how to really love myself, how to get to know myself, so that I could advocate for myself before I could really go on and help other people to the magnitude of what God has.
Yeah, and that is so important, isn't it? It's like, I can't remember who said it, but to heal the world, we have to heal ourselves. And it's like one by one, we heal the world. So that's so pertinent what you just said. And that was also my learning. It was like, I hated myself, and I kind of tried to commit suicide and hated myself. And it's been a journey of really changing that around. I know I can't help. I was trying to help other people. I can't do that before loving myself. So yes, thank you. You're so right.
I want to make sure I'm very mindful and be clear to people that my mission does not involve pointing fingers. I don't blame my teacher in nursing school. I don't blame the doctor that had me committed. I don't blame the doctor that prescribed the diet pills all those years. Obviously, Katie, you and I both know, if I had a 4-year degree as a medical professional, I had the knowledge and understanding of what those pills would physiologically do to my body for being on them for longer than 3 months, but talk about 9 years. So I knew. And so
but that shows how strong the societal push is, isn't it? To be normal, to look perfect, to have the perfect family, the perfect home, the perfect car, which, when you wake up to this altered consciousness, don't mean a damn.
Right. Exactly. It's so funny. Because it's like, if you knew those things logically, why did you do it for so long? And you're so right. I got caught up in just wanting to be loved. Yeah. And really having a skewed understanding of what being loved really meant. And I did. I bought into this myth for years that, being accepted, you'll be loved and being accepted if you have the car, if you're perfect, if you're thin enough, if you got this, if you got that. Just totally not looking inwards and really learning about what it means and listening, again, to source, that connection. But denying that and listening to what mankind is dictating, and it set me down a path that obviously killed me. And so it is important. It's important that we hold a space and we help people to learn how to find their voice by really learning about who they are and not being embarrassed or feeling flawed or messed up that they've gone through things that maybe they're not proud of. Trust me, you and I both know we've had the pleasure of growing our friendship and having the support that we've each gone through things that we're honestly not proud of. We've messed up. I've messed up more than probably most people. But again, Katie, one of the things that I am so thankful for with my near-death experience is having God remind me that, gosh, you messed up a lot. And I was taught growing up. You mess up, you're a sinner, not a winner, you're going to hell, you're not going to heaven, and God's going to judge you. And do you know, God didn't judge me. Why is that? I messed up a lot. I should have been judged if that was the accurate information. Well, guess what? God loved me. And I am no better than anyone else. And so God loves each and every one of us that much. And our mess ups are really lessons. They're beautiful lessons, because this is earth school. We're just here to learn. And that is ugly. It's all okay. And it can be used in a very beautiful way.
Yeah.
Permission.
And we're all like, you wake up to this realization, don't you, that we are all an embodiment of God, an embodiment of Source. It's not something separate from us. And something you said then, which is I think just so powerful as well, is when we share at such a vulnerable level as we have, it really helps to kind of bond. And I love you, because of how vulnerable you've been with me. And it's so heartwarming to connect at that level. So grateful for these connections.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, they are these connections that we all have the opportunity to have with each other, whether it's the connection on the level of the way we are, or a connection where someone just maybe comes across our podcast or hears us speak, and we feel connected that way. It is, again, the lesson of the rippling effect that I was shown in heaven. And it's amazing. If you think about it, our body, it's just a shell, right? It's a rock. Yeah. And inside of us, our spirit, our real self, is the light. And I remember God showing me that huge rock, and there's this huge body of water. And the rock, it plunges and makes this huge impact on this body of water. And God and I watched together, and this impact caused one ripple, just one. But it grew and it grew and it grew. And as we watched this ripple, God explained to me how each and every one of us, when we are born, and if you are living and breathing here, you are that rock that plunges into that water. Now the difference is, you're going to go through life and you're going to affect people. You're going to see the rippling effect to mankind. And mankind is that water, but we, with the gift of life hand in hand, is free will. And free will is that light that emanates from that rock.
Yes.
And we can choose to have our light on or off when we make that ripple. Now imagine a bunch of us rocks together. We have our lights on when we're making our ripple together. That's the key, is it's empowering and embracing and loving each other and coming together. That power, that love power together, that's when we change things.
Yeah. Bless you. And that's exactly what this campaign is about. It's about allowing everybody to put their lights on and be vulnerable and share and create a rippling effect wherever they are, wherever we are in the world. And that's how we connect. Christina Groff had the vision of lights connecting around the globe. I had that, you've had that, Rosalia's had that. It's like all of us that are waking up to this have the same vision, and it's just amazing. And we could talk for hours, as we've done before. But I'd love to kind of have a few regular interviews with you, Erica, if you're willing for that, so you can share your exciting project as well, kind of later on down the line, when you're ready to go public with that. And I'm really excited about what you're doing, so really, really kind of would love to give you some time to tell people about that on our next interview. But thank you so much for sharing today. And
so much. You are such a blessing, and keep up the beautiful work. I'm just so honored. It's been a blessing and an honor to have you in my life.
Likewise, it's just such an amazing connection to know, like, the work that you're doing and the impact that it's going to make is just gosh, I keep getting shivers when we talk. It's incredible. Thank you. We'll speak again soon.
Sounds good. Bye.